Debbyites, we are back once again for the high holy days of the awards calendar. We are jumping out of our proverbial skin. We're so excited about what's about to happen with the Oscars, of course. We are doing a four-part pre-show tonight. And we have just a cavalcade of stars joining me today to talk about, of course, the best day in the year. I have Luca Giliberti, our European correspondent, dialing in from Germany. I have our two amazing New Yorkers, Daniel Montgomery and Sam Eckmann. Welcome, guys, to the first section of our amazing pre-show.
Hello,
Don't all
Rob.
yell at me at once. Now, there's going to be some really interesting surprises tonight, but there's also going to be some awards where we think we know what's going to happen. And I think what better way to start than the big one? Let's get straight to it. Let's not dilly-dally. Let's go right to the big one, Best Picture. Now, I don't think any of us are losing sleep over Best Picture. I feel like we're all on the same page about Oppenheimer. It was such an amazing achievement for Chris Nolan and his team. So I want to go to you first, Luca, because it's late there and I want to keep you awake. And I'm just curious, of course, you can talk us through your thoughts about Oppenheimer winning, but maybe you could also say what you think, if it wasn't for Oppenheimer, what would be winning? Go for it.
I mean, that's a question I think a lot of people have been asking themselves. And I think one of the main reasons Oppenheimer is such a strong front runner, it's not only the front runner because it's won everything, it's also the front runner because there really isn't this runner up that's really arisen in the past few weeks, or no obvious runner up. But if I had to go with one, I'd probably go with American Fiction at this point, and not to talk about something we'll talk about later on, but I do think its potential in adapted screenplay would be the reason for that. And I think it's also the type of movie that would do really well on a preferential ballot. But honestly, any of these movies could be the runner-up. It's so difficult to choose. And like I said, I think that's one of the reasons Oppenheimer has just had such an easy path to the win at this point. So, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I probably wouldn't have gone with American Fiction, but I hear what you're saying. What do you think, Daniel?
Well, definitely Oppenheimer winning, and the runner-up. It is really hard to pick one. Like, I feel like this could be an interesting race if an alternative had emerged, but we didn't really see one. Like, the only other thing that's won a Best Picture prize, as far as I can tell, is Poor Things, and that was the Golden Globe for musical comedy, where Oppenheimer wasn't obviously competing. So I would guess Poor Things would be your runner-up. Even though it's kind of divisive, I feel like there's enough passion for it that it would have a lot of number one votes, and then it wouldn't need, if it weren't for Oppenheimer, it wouldn't need that many 2s and 3s to get it over the line.
Okay, and Sam?
I think Oppenheimer, it just is a great mix, like sort of a once-in-a-generation mix of a blockbuster Hollywood movie with an amazing artistic achievement. That we don't get something of this magnitude all the time. And I think that's why we've had this strange scenario where we are not seeing an alternative emerge. I think maybe some of us thought The Holdovers could be that little movie that could, because it has those characters you root for. It speaks to that emotional core, the same kind of reason why a smaller film like Coda can win, because it comes in and tears at your heartstrings. Or that Barbie, maybe people could be so upset that Greta didn't get in for director, so that would have a groundswell to push the other big half of Barbenheimer to a win. But neither scenario really played out. So we're just looking at Oppenheimer coming in, taking this by force. And I think it will be, when we look back, it'll be a year when we look back at the Oscars years from now, that it feels right, that it feels like a representative movie won.
Yeah, sometimes, well, I think all the time we look at the Oscars not only for, whatever reasons, but for me, it's always about this history capsule in time. And you look back, you know, at 1991 or 1987 or 1999, and you can look back and think, okay, of course it wasn't completely representative of the year in film. There are always films that miss out, really good ones, but it's a really good way to just kind of remember where people were at the time, particularly in the industry. So Sam, I think you're totally right. I think we're going to look back on this and be very happy and proud that Oppenheimer won. So there you go. I think we should move on because there are other races, of course, that we are calling tonight. And I think Best Actor is actually really exciting because, yes, of course, Cillian Murphy seems to have emerged as a frontrunner after, you know, winning some of the precursors. But stranger things have happened, and there was a time there where Paul Giamatti was really kind of in the running as, you know, the actor, you know, the journeyman actor who's done really well and who's never really had his due. And I still think that could possibly happen. Of course, I am predicting for Cillian Murphy, but I'm curious, Daniel, where you're at with Best Actor and whether you've had to do a lot of kind of thinking and wondering what's going to happen, or are you very resolute in Cillian Murphy taking this out?
I mean, I've been in so many different places with this race over the course of the season. I was, you know, one of the people who thought, you know, before precursor winners had started coming in, it's like, oh, I think Bradley Cooper, that's the kind of performance that wins Oscars. And then Cillian won the Globe. And so I'm like, okay, maybe Cillian versus Bradley Cooper. And then Paul Giamatti won the Critics' Choice Award. And I thought, okay, so it's Cillian versus Giamatti. And then Cillian just won BAFTA and SAG, and sort of, leads me down that route. But I do still think there is a ghost of a chance for Paul Giamatti. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I'd say Cillian probably is like 90% there, but you know, there's still a bit of a chance for a Giamatti upset. But it's a small chance.
Daniel, well, how would you feel if when Cillian Murphy actually goes up there, and if he's the winner, how will that make you feel personally?
I mean, it's a strong performance. I really, you know, there's not a performance in this category that I dislike. So, and he's been working for so many years, and this is his first nomination, let alone win. So I'll be thrilled. The only disappointment would be, you know, if we start seeing the same speeches from the same winners over and over again that we've seen in recent weeks, you know. So I hope the winners keep it lively if we've seen it before.
Yeah, I think that's part of probably the downside to Oscar season these days, that we have so many precursors that we all love and pore over and watch, but it does take some of the spontaneity out of Oscar night. I remember back in the day when winners would come out there and people weren't really expecting it because there wasn't really any other award show apart from the Golden Globes. Those days are gone. Sam, how about you? Do you feel like Paul Giamatti has any hope? And the second question would be how Best Actor will make you feel if someone like Cillian Murphy can take it out.
I think Paul Giamatti's chances have strangely dwindled as the season went on. I really thought this would be such a coin toss, but his BAFTA loss never made me, you know, think anything. I always expected Cillian to take the BAFTA, but the SAG was really where I was like, oh, I think this might be done. I think Cillian's just going to steamroll the rest, because it feels like SAG is where Paul Giamatti really should have garnered the support of other, you know, kind of journeyman workhorse actors who might relate to him and his story. So I think it'll be Cillian's, unless, you know, I was spearheading an Andrew Scott writing campaign. So, you know, look out for that to be the big surprise of the night. But absent that, I think Cillian makes a great winner. He has turned in great performances for years. Oppenheimer is like, he does get to transform in this, that they really liked. And there's just, when you watch that movie back, like those classic Christopher Nolan close-ups, there's so much going on his face. He just does so much with this role. It's a very deserved win.
Over to you, Luca. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with everything Sam said and Daniel. I really think this is just Cillian's to lose. I really don't think Paul has much of a chance. I think I mean, we have to remember he did win the Golden Globe, but he wasn't up against Cillian Murphy at the Golden Globe, so he never really beat him there. He beat him at Critics' Choice, but we know that Critics' Choice doesn't have overlap with the industry, especially with the Academy. So even though that win did give him some momentum, or appears to have given him some momentum, in the end it doesn't really matter because those weren't industry voters weighing in. And Cillian has the combination of SAG and BAFTA, and he's in the Best Picture frontrunner, and he's literally in almost every frame of the movie. As for what I think of this win, I think it's a terrific performance. I think he'll be very deserving, and I think it'll be a refreshing win in Best Actor. Because even though, yes, he's playing a real person, obviously, yes, it is a biopic in a way, but it's not that loud performance that we usually see prevail in Best Actor, and I think that's kind of refreshing. It's not a unshowy performance, but it's not as showy as some of the past winners, and I think it'd be nice to see that type of performance prevail here. But I do co-sign the Andrew Scott write-in.
Yes.
From Sam.
Same.
Robbed of a nomination.
You know what? Let's just be real for a sec. Andrew Scott not being in this list is a little bit dumb. Like, he should be here, and he wasn't even at the BAFTAs, and that the BAFTA voters really liked that movie, and yet they couldn't find room for Andrew Scott. He's the whole movie. Like,
I know.
it's very disappointing that movies like that, All of Us Strangers, there are plenty others that they just have not registered at all. Whatever you might feel about Saltburn, for example, I know a lot of people who don't watch Oscar movies for a job or they just love movies, and they found Saltburn to be really entertaining. And it's not here at all, and it's just a bit sad that it's
Not
just
even Rosamund
same.
Pike.
Nothing.
How can you not at least throw her a bone for that? She had the most quotable part of the year.
I know. So that's really disappointing. But, it is what it is. We have to just get on with it, get on with our lives and stop self-flagellating. So let's move on to the screenplay categories, because this is where it starts getting a little interesting, because in original screenplay, the consensus appears to be that this is where Justine Triet will get an Oscar. It happens a lot. I remember way back when The Piano was nominated against Schindler's List. That's how old I am. I remember it like it was yesterday. And the amazing Jane Campion won her award for writing The Piano. But of course, she was nominated for director. Same thing's going to happen here. I feel like they really do like this movie. And frankly, I'd be giving it more than just original screenplay. I feel like it should win 2 others, which we'll go into later. But if anything else is going to win here, I'm really interested to know what you think, because there's 2 other Best Picture nominees, and there's Maestro, and then there's May December, which didn't really do well at all this year, but at least it got in for the writers. So I'm curious, Sam, do you feel like this is really just Anatomy of a Fall and we're done? Or does the holdovers, particularly, even though this doesn't have any relevance with this silly court case that's going to start to happen about the holdovers and plagiarism, I wonder how that would look to the Academy if that ended up winning. What do you think, Sam?
I'm sure there are people in the Academy now like sweating bullets. Like, I hope the holdovers doesn't take it by some miracle. But I think the holdovers, this was another place where I sort of thought this would be more of a competition, but it feels like it's swayed so far in Anatomy of a Fall's favor that I don't, because the holdovers does seem like something that in a normal year would take it. I think Anatomy of a Fall just feels like such a crowd pleaser, and it has that like cool factor, I think, this year that everyone is talking about it. Everyone feels like they've discovered it, maybe because it is an international film, and that's a really powerful thing. And it does have those incredible court scenes, so I think that's taken precedence there. I also wish, if we're looking for things that maybe will offer a little bit of a surprise, this is the only thing that Past Lives could win. And if we want like a Ex Machina winning visual effects kind of crazy surprise that's not predicted anywhere, like that would be a really thrilling award show moment if they could, by some miracle, walk up to the podium.
I know. I live for those moments. I want more of those moments. I want surprises. I know it seems like Chris and I have this debate. Chris Beecham, our fearless leader, about how, no, stop with the surprises. These people have won all these awards. Let them get their moment in the spotlight. But I'm like, well, yes, but it's just all about me and my gratification, and I want to see surprises. What do you think, Luca?
I think the cool factor is really what's important here, what Sam mentioned. I think that's absolutely the reason why Anatomy of a Fall will win. Obviously, I think the Golden Globe win kind of gave everyone, not permission, but that sort of started its role. And this movie is beloved. I mean, this got 5 nominations, including editing. And I think when you get those above the line nominations, that really signals a lot of passion for the movie. And I think this will be the best place to reward it, because as you kind of alluded to, it probably won't win any other awards. And I don't think voters think like this at all. But I do think that I maybe there are some that are like, this is the best place to reward the movie. And as for runner-up, I think we would all say it's The Holdovers. But there is a lot of passion for Past Lives. So I don't even know who would be the runner-up in this case, because I think you can easily make a case for Past Lives, especially since the movie that had the same 2 nominations last year, Women Talking, won Adapted Screenplay. So you just never know.
Daniel, is there any chance that Past Lives could take it? Because I've been thinking that same way myself.
There's a path. I don't think Anatomy of a Fall is like a 100% slam dunk. I think The Holdovers could take it. Back when I was thinking, oh, maybe The Holdovers could take Best Picture, it was looking like The Holdovers could have that magic trifecta of picture, supporting, and screenplay, which we've seen a number of films win over the last 10 years or so. But especially that Golden Globe win really put a lot of wind in Anatomy's sails, and then the BAFTA win, of course. So it just feels like the momentum is swinging in that direction, but it's not definitive. I would not be surprised to see Holdovers win this. Past Lives, less of a chance, but it is a Best Picture nominee, and this is its only other nomination. So we know that they really appreciate that film enough. That script was strong enough, that it got the film into Best Picture. So you never know.
That's true. That is very true. I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing Anatomy of a Fall take it. But if there's a surprise at the Oscars, I wouldn't mind Celine Song taking this out. She should be in director as well. Okay. Adapted screenplay is a little bit more interesting, although it seems to be that there's consensus forming around Cord Jefferson's screenplay for American Fiction, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. That movie's about writing, as well as a few other things. It's very clever, and it really, really talks to or speaks to this moment that we are living in about identity and about culture wars and all those things that we hear about, particularly from political circles. And I find that really fascinating. But Chris Nolan is nominated here as well for his Oppenheimer script. And what an amazing achievement. What an adaptation to be able to throw that all together in this very long, but yet so seamless film. And then you've got Noah Baumbach and, of course, Greta Gerwig for Barbie, the phenomenon of 2023. People feel that maybe Greta Gerwig missed her moment in Best Director. And it's done very well across the board. And there is a lot of passion for Barbie. There's also a lot of anti-passion for Barbie, I think, perhaps in the Academy. But there's that. And then you've got Tony McNamara, one of the greatest living writers today, who has won awards for his beautiful work on The Great. And he's also a playwright here in Australia. He's one of the legends of our industry. He's nominated. And guess what? And then you've got The Zone of Interest. What an incredible adaptation of a very well-known book. And that movie still haunts me to this very day. I think about it all the time, and I've only seen it twice. That's a category that I am so excited about. any of those 5 could win, and I would be applauding. And it looks like American Fiction's out front. So, Sam, what do you think? Like, let's be real about it, but also, what are you hope predicting?
Oh boy, I have changed this one a lot of times, and actually just changed back to my original prediction today. I have Barbie out front. I know American Fiction is really strong, mostly because of the BAFTA win, because it won its only nomination at BAFTA. BAFTA didn't go for it in picture for Jeffrey Wright, anything, yet they still gave it the screenplay award, and that is a really strong indicator. It also just picked up the scripter. However, the not here is that Barbie has been competing in original screenplay for most of the season and has been winning original screenplay prizes. And I just feel like this is such a prime example to reward like what people specifically fell in love with for this movie and why it turned into a phenomenon, which is like the inventiveness of this script, you know, the ballsiness of this script of taking this iconic toy that everyone loves, turning it on its head, almost poking fun at it, but examining the positives and negative impacts of Barbie across, you know, the years, and creating something that resonates with people on a very human level so deeply as an allegory for our humanity. I just feel like it has what it takes to win. And I think this will be probably one of the closest categories of the night, but this feels like the one chance. It's also the one chance to give American Fiction anything. But it's also the one like above the line category where Barbie can take something. And I just have a feeling that it has the goods to take it.
Wow, that is ballsy. And if Barbie takes this out, I'm sorry, every time I say Barbie, I sound like the most ochre Australian living in the outback. I'm sorry.
We love it.
Wait till you hear Matt. He'll be doing it as well. But if that wins, I'm going to send you a message and I'm going to say respect. Okay, Daniel, you're next. What do you think about adapted screenplay? Give us some clarity here because it's hurting my brain.
I think it's going to be American Fiction. And you know, the thing that gives me pause is, you know, Oppenheimer just potentially sweeping everything. You know, it's an easy box to check if you're just in the camp for Oppenheimer. I mean, it's going to win probably around 8 Oscars. So that, you know, that gives it a strong chance. But the interesting thing is, as dominant as Oppenheimer has been all season, its script can't get arrested. Like, it lost to Anatomy of a Fall at the Globes. It's been losing to American Fiction, even at the BAFTAs, where as Sam said, it was the only nomination for American Fiction was for its screenplay, and it still won over Oppenheimer, which was the BAFTA's favorite film. You know, so it just feels like too much is leaning in that direction for American Fiction for me to not predict it. Although I do agree that Barbie is this kind of unknown factor, having competed in original screenplay at so many other awards and here being adapted. So like this is kind of a brand new race. We have not seen this quite like this this season so far. So it'll be really interesting to see which way this goes. But I feel like the you know, where the wind has been blowing tells me stick with American Fiction.
Okay, Luca, are you going to go for a film that is in one of your languages? Yes or no?
Sadly, no. I will not. So sorry. I really agree with everything that Sam and Daniel have already said. You know, I was a person who naively had Barbie in first in screenplay all throughout the season. And I was sort of the opinion it didn't matter in which category it would land. But after it, you know, underperformed in nominations, after it started losing steam, and then once American Fiction won BAFTA, that's when I finally moved off of it, because as Sam already said, it had no business winning BAFTA. It was its only nomination. I think even without the jury system, its ceiling would have probably been 2 nominations. Jeffrey Wright may have been nominated, but it just didn't do well at BAFTA. So the fact that they still went for it just shows tells me how much passion there is specifically for that script. It kind of gave me Coda flashbacks to Coda a few years ago, which also was in like 4th or 5th place in our odds. And then once it won, everyone knew, okay, this movie is coming. Obviously, American Fiction is not the likely Best Picture winner, but it sort of reminded me of that. I think with Barbie, the problem is that this Academy showed us that they like the movie, but they don't particularly love it. It was snubbed in a lot of categories that I find a bit alarming. It didn't just miss director and actress, it also missed editing and sound, other nominations that were gettable. So even though I'd like to believe that there is this like push to reward Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, especially after the director omission for Greta, I just don't know whether that push is actually there. I feel like that might be a narrative that kind of exists online, but is not necessarily present in the Academy.
Okay. Wouldn't it be wild though if looking back at his career, if Noah Baumbach's Oscar, like potentially his first Oscar, who knows, maybe his only Oscar, is for the Barbie movie. The Man Behind Marriage Story wins his Oscar for Barbie.
It's poetic. That's just poetry. We're running out of time. We need to talk about editing before I ask you the final question. Jennifer Lame seems to be out in front for Oppenheimer, and I feel like if there is going to be a spoiler, it could be any of those 5 films: Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is Thomas Schumacher, Poor Things, and The Holdovers. Nodding, do you all agree that Oppenheimer has this one pretty much in the bag? Yeah. Does anyone have anything to say about editing, what you think might happen before we move on to the final question? We're kind of giving editing short shrift unless, if you've got something to say.
Because I feel like it's concluded.
It's as locked as it can.
It's
Jennifer Lame doesn't take
movie.
it.
It's back and forth in time, lots of characters.
It's so exceptional.
Kind of prototypical editing.
It's undeniable.
Yeah.
Like if Oppenheimer wasn't a front runner, I still feel like it would win this. This is one of its awards. So final question in the last 3 minutes is what you're most hoping for, what you're most excited about or nervous about, what's keeping you up. Not necessarily about predictions, just about the Oscars tonight in general. Who would like to go first? It's the question I'm most interested in, actually. Go for it. How about you, Luca?
I guess the thing I'm always hoping from the Oscars is that they celebrate the nominated films. I feel like that's the bare minimum we should be asking for, but we've seen at past ceremonies that isn't always the case. I feel like last year, if I remember correctly, was a good ceremony. I felt like the films that were nominated were actually celebrated. And I just hope they do that this year. We already know now that we'll have past winners presenting each of the acting nominees as they've done in the past. I'm very curious to see how they pull that off, whether there are montages or clips that sort of lead into that, or whether they'll do away with the montages completely this year, or acting clips for time reasons. So I just hope to have a ceremony that really celebrates this year in cinema and celebrates this Best Picture lineup, which I think is arguably one of the strongest that we've had in ages. So yeah, that's what I'm most looking forward to. And the I'm Just Ken performance.
Daniel?
I'm looking forward to that I'm Just Ken performance as well. I'm with you, Rob, in that I want to see surprises. I don't want it to be just like just the same parade of winners that we've seen. Not necessarily every category, but just here and there. But specifically, I want them to be surprises that surprise everyone and not close calls where my prediction score falls in.
You don't want to fall down the ranking.
I don't want to fall down the rankings. So so it has to be a surprise that nobody saw coming except like 12 people.
Yeah, understand. Sam, final word.
I'm also looking forward to hopefully a good put together package from those past winners honoring the nominees, because that can, I feel like, go either way, be really great or kind of be a slog. So I'm really hoping those are really well put together and are interesting and heartfelt and entertaining. And I also just hope winners, if you win an Oscar, don't just list off a list of names, because those, pick your top 5 maybe, and then say something interesting and say something memorable. You have a stage, you have a world stage. Don't just say a list of names. You can thank those people anywhere. And if that makes me cold-hearted, whatever, put on a good show.
It's damn good advice. I hope they're listening. They're not, but I hope they are. We're going to bring in some new blood. So if our trusty producer, Keith, could bring them in, if they are in the waiting room, that would be amazing. And we can still gab while we wait. Oh, here they are. Okay, we have a cat with Charlie, Denton Davidson, and Tom O'Brien. All right, we're going to say goodbye to Luca, Daniel, and Sam. Thank you so much for your insights. Have a lovely Oscars day night. Wow. I thought the last group was amazing, and now look what I've got. Oh, God, I just feel so privileged to have. Look at this. Well, apart from Charlie. So we have the future Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Charlie Bright. We have one of the best people to go out on the town with, trust me, Denton Davidson. And we have the coolest, best writer that I've ever seen, and someone who just is basically the mayor of Palm Springs, Tom O'Brien. Welcome, guys. It's so exciting to have you on.
Hey, yes, I'm excited. I've been furious jumping for joy all day. I just can't wait to get things started.
I know. Let's just get on with it. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about one of the most difficult categories to predict. I'm being super sarcastic. Supporting actor. Robert Downey Jr. is one of my childhood heroes, and I love him. I love everything he does. He's Iron Man. He's Chaplin. He's just so wonderful, and I'm so happy that he's probably going to take home an Oscar tonight. And I'm just wondering, I feel like you're all on the same page. We all are going for RDJ, but I'm curious who you think is in second place. For me, I feel like it's Ryan Gosling. I just, he is Ken and always will be. And I've always loved Ryan Gosling as well. He's such a great actor. I'm curious then what you think, Charlie, about this category.
I've been pretty confident with Robert Downey Jr. since I saw Oppenheimer back in July. So this isn't once he started picking up televised awards, that was pretty much, to me, like I was like, okay, this is a done deal. And I kind of do think if the runner-up is significant, it would be Ryan Gosling. I just think he was perfect casting as Ken. I think the best piece of promotional material was the picture of Ken giving the mug shot, which I thought was just perfect, and he was excellent in the movie. But I really think Robert Downey Jr. is so far out on this one. I'm not really taking that seriously.
What about you, Denton? How do you feel about the best supporting actor?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's a slam dunk. I've been following Robert Downey Jr. since probably when he was a bully on Weird Science. That was my experience with Robert Downey Jr.
Denton, you've had a police scanner for that long?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I used to be like protest voting. Like, I put Ryan Gosling in 5th place for so long just because I was like, they're not going to give it to a man now. Like, after what happened, like the one win from Barbie is going to be Ken. Hell no. But he probably is 2nd place, but there's not a great alternative. I have Sterling K. Brown in 3rd now, just because I think American Fiction did I think that does resonate with the Academy more than it did any of the precursors. I think they really do like that movie. And Mark Ruffalo, he's in, one of the strongest Best Picture nominees. And, Robert De Niro, for being Robert De Niro, has not been a factor, really. So I just can't imagine anyone other than Robert Downey Jr. winning this, though.
Yeah. But what about you, Tom?
Rob, I'm really excited about this category because I love the work of these guys. I'm really so happy for Robert Downey Jr. I mean, the ups and downs of his life and how he's fought back. And I mean, it's a remarkable career that he has had. And the fact that he could have just coasted on the Marvel money, but he just said, I'm going to go for something else, and got the opportunity in the role of a lifetime for him. I'm so happy. And I hope he thanks his dad, because his dad was a remarkable director too, which is great. But, I think the guys in this category, some of them are doing some of the best work in ages. I mean, I got to say that we all imagine what Ken would have been like when we first announced the Barbie project, probably some stiff, good-looking guy. And what Gosling does with that is remarkable. He turns it into kind of a comic tornado going through this and giving Ken a whole lot of heart, it's just a joy to watch him. I think De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, this is probably his best work in maybe a decade. He's really creates a very scary guy. Sterling K. Brown, it was a surprise to me. I mean, this is not a role that I would have thought that he would have necessarily been great at, because it doesn't seem like it didn't fit my image of him. But he was just a wonderful foil for Jeffrey Wright, and that you really felt that they were brothers. And Mark Ruffalo, my God, I never knew he had that kind of comic chops in him, and the kind of fearlessness he has dancing around with Emma Stone, and the pout he puts on. It's one of the most memorable characters of the year. So I really like these five, and I'll be thrilled for Downey when he gets up on that stage.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Let's move on to the best zone of interest. Oh, sorry, best international feature film. I feel like Zone of Interest is almost guaranteed this win. I'm feeling very confident about it. I'm very happy about it. I love Jonathan Glazer, and this is going to go to the UK, which is, I think, is the first time a country with, that is not a native non-English language is going to win. So it finally did it.
Canada did win
yes,
it in 2003.
If we're just thinking Canada's bilingual, I guess officially, maybe this might be, I was hoping Australia would be the one to do it, but it's the UK. God damn it, the mother country again. People complained that this category is very Eurocentric, and that's fair enough, I guess, even though Perfect Days, of course, is a Japanese entrant. It was directed by a European. Il Capitano is Italian. Society of the Snow is set in South America, but of course is Spanish. J.A. Bayona, he would probably win this if it wasn't for the Zone of Interest. And then The Teacher's Lounge from Germany. It's very Eurocentric. There's nothing from Africa, Pacific, and apart from Japan, then of course there's nothing else from Asia, and there's nothing from Latin America. It's a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. These are really good movies. Zone of Interest is taking this out. Does everybody agree? Does anyone have any particular comments to make, perhaps about, Charlie, do you want to say something about international?
I don't know, but I think I was cutting out and freezing there for a moment. But Canada has won international feature back in 2003 for The Barbarian Invasions. But this will be the UK's first win. I can't remember if it's their first nomination.
They were nominated for Head Win about, 20 years ago, which was in Welsh, and there might have been one other, but yes, this is the first time.
Or something like that, or
something like that. Yeah.
So, but yeah, and Rob, I'm with you on this one. I'm Zone of Interest. I haven't been able to get out. I've only seen it twice as well, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head since I saw it in October. I think it's one of the most brilliant movies I've seen in a long time. And like you, also huge fan of Jonathan Glazer. Especially, I remember his music videos, which were incredible, like Virtual Insanity. And if you want to be disturbed, watch Rabbit in Your Headlights. That one will haunt you. I do think this is an incredible crop though of films, but I do think Zone of Interest is most like, and the UK is thanking their lucky stars that France was as foolish as they were.
Yes, of course, picking The Taste of Things, which didn't even make it in, which is a Tran Anh Hung Vietnamese filmmaker. That would have been cool to have been represented here as well. Tom, what do you think?
I think it's very hard to bet against a nominee in this category who's in the Best Picture race also. But I think that
Yeah.
The Zone of Interest is one of those films that they're going to be teaching this film, 50 years from now. I mean, this is just a beautiful textbook film, and one of the best films I think ever about the Holocaust.
I know some people that we work with who didn't care for the film, and I totally get it, because if you're just going into the film and watching it as a narrative, maybe you feel like it doesn't hit the mark. For me, it meant much more. It was about the banality of evil, and about also how things are happening in front of your face, and you can hear things going on in the world. If you're not doing anything about it, then are you just as complicit? And that really, really got me. Denton, what's gonna happen in international feature? Is there any chance for a surprise?
No. But what I like about this year of movies is that there's so much passion for different movies and so much hatred for different movies. There are people that hate Zone of Interest. There are people that hate Poor Things. And there's people like me that love Poor Things. And that's what's sort of fun this year, is that I think it's just a great year of movies. And even though there are these standout frontrunners, there are other films that are so good. This category in particular, it's a shame that people it's a shame that it's not interesting, because Society of the Snow is one of my favorite films of the year. Easily. It's so beautiful. And Io Capitano really surprised me. I really enjoyed that movie. It is Italian, an Italian filmmaker, but it is an African story. And that was a shock to me when I saw that film. So this, and the Teacher's Lounge is like this suspense that happens for no apparent reason. Like, it's a quiet film that's suspenseful. All these movies are really good, but yeah, I mean, you're giving us all the most boring categories to call. What's going on?
Of course, maybe there's no surprises necessarily in some of these.
Us to this segment.
Don't worry, I'm going to let you have a few extra little bits and pieces to spice it up. It's okay. Now, another category that there isn't going to be a lot of mystery is Best Original Score. Ludwig Göransson's score for Oppenheimer is one of the best scores I've heard in many, many years. I listen to it all the time, and I feel like if that doesn't win, I will faint. I just can't imagine it won't win.
The monster.
I will storm the Capitol. I will, I will probably initiate proceedings in Arizona. The whole thing. So also nominated is Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which is the perennial John Williams score that gets nominated, and of course American Fiction, Laura Cartman. I love seeing a woman nominated in original score. It doesn't happen very often. So does anybody have anything interesting to say about original score other than what I have just said?
Killers of the Flower Moon might be if anything were to take down Ludwig Göransson, I think it might be Killers of the Flower Moon. Also because this is Robbie Robertson, celebrated musician who unfortunately passed away a little while ago, and so this would be a very heartwarming statement to award him on this. But I don't think that's going to be enough for him.
Yeah, it's a shame. I just still, I hear what you're saying. If there's something that's going to give, it'll be something like that. But I think, it's so overwhelming that Göransson will take home another Oscar. I think we should move on to documentary feature, because for a while I was skeptical about 20 Days in Mariupol. Obviously, that skepticism has subsided, given that it has been doing very well in the pre-Oscar circuit. Tom, how do you feel about Best Documentary Feature?
Well, this one, it is interesting that a lot of the early awards went to celebrity-driven docs, like the Michael J. Fox film or American Symphony with John Batiste. But when 20 Days in Mariupol emerged, it is timely, and people will think, well, they're giving it to him because it's in the news. But it's a very gripping, it works almost as a thriller of this PBS reporter who was trapped behind the lines when Russia first bombs Ukraine and has to get out of there within the 20 days so they can bring his footage to the world who's been waiting for it. It's got a ticking clock. It works very much like a fiction film almost, but it actually happened. And I think that combined with the timeliness will make it a very worthy winner. But the other 4 films are very, very good as well. It's another great crop of films, four great bridesmaids.
Yeah. What about you, Denton?
Yeah, I mean, American Symphony won PGA. So if there was going to be something that could come along and surprise, it would have been American Symphony, which we had predicted would get in, but it was not. So that really clears the path for 20 Days. And I interviewed the director, Mstislav, and I don't know how he did that and doesn't need like therapy for the rest of. I mean, the footage is just incredible and shocking and awful. I mean, there's babies and children being killed. So it's just something people don't want to watch, but they need to watch. And his ability to keep you engaged and to keep you watching even through those difficult moments, really impressive. And I don't think there's a clear alternative because the other 4 are also so well done, but they're also sort of all over the place in terms of subject matter. And this one really, I think, is the clear front runner here.
What about you, Charlie?
I'm pretty much on the same page as you guys, although not to be outdone by Denton, I've interviewed 2 of the nominees in this category, so you can suck on that.
Wow.
But yeah, no, I'm with you guys on, there's no real alternative that really has come through on this. Each one has their backers and have people that really are passionate about what they are, but there's no consensus. So I think 20 Days of Mariupol is pretty much your default one there.
For what it's worth,
it's a good time.
For what it's worth, I've talked to Bobby Wine, Charlie. If you really want to get into Bobby Wine.
Okay, yeah, you'll say that while you're on another coast. Yeah, come over to DC and say that.
Bobby Wine, the documentary. That was another one that surprised me.
That's one of the people I interviewed, actually.
That was really low in the rankings for a long time. People didn't even think it would be nominated. Another documentary about the democracy situation happening in Uganda. I mean, these movies, if you haven't seen them, I strongly suggest to go watch all of these. I think they're all streaming, and it's an incredible group of documentaries.
Yeah, it really is. I was thinking for quite some time that Kawthar Ben-Hania would win for Four Daughters, because you'll recall she was the Tunisian director who was nominated a couple of years ago, first time that Tunisia was represented in international feature. And I think she could end up being the first Muslim, Middle Eastern, North African winner as well in this category. I would love to see that, but I feel like 20 Days in Mariupol has this in the bag, and also will be one of those time capsule. You look back and you think, what were the voters thinking during a time when Ukraine was at war, and also the situation in Gaza. So yeah, fascinating contest. Let's move on though to things that are a little bit more frivolous, and that is makeup and hair. But it is a category where I feel like it's not locked in at all. So you do get a very exciting category to talk about, Denton, and I will be going to you first, because I have switched back and forth between Poor Things and Maestro, and I eventually went with Maestro, probably because those close-ups of Bradley Cooper as Bernstein, I've never really seen such impressive aged makeup in ever. And some people will completely disagree with me. It just really depends on your point of view and perspective. But I really loved it, and I feel like that will take it out, and it'll be the only award that Maestro takes out tonight. So what do you think? I'll go straight to you first, Denton. What do you feel about this category? It's really hard to pick, I think.
It is. Poor Things did prevail at the BAFTA, and I don't know what that really gives us, but it's something. That's the direction I'm going. I ended up going with Poor Things for a lot of the below the lines, and I could regret it. I mean, I have Poor Things winning 4 categories tonight, and they could lose all 4. Like, very realistically, that's what's exciting about this year. There's so many races. It's a coin flip. I could go 0-4-4 and bomb tonight. If Poor Things pulls an Elvis, I'm screwed. But I'm going with Poor Things in makeup based on just the fact that it performed better as a film overall with the Academy. It won the BAFTA. Willem Dafoe's face. There is various, scenes of hair and makeup, but what's his name? Kazuhiro. He's won two. He's won two in a row. Like his last two nominations, he's won for Bombshell and Darkest Hour. So he's a force to be reckoned with in that prosthetics world. They definitely like him. So that's a very close race. And if Maestro wins, probably a done deal for Emma Stone, because that we've seen those acting and makeup correspondence happen a lot. I would say if Poor Things wins makeup, Emma Stone still is in trouble. That's not our category, but that's a close race. But if Poor Things loses makeup, then I would say Emma Stone, her stock goes way down as the night goes on.
Yeah. That's giving me some pause. What about you, Tom?
I think that I'm beginning to look to alternatives to Maestro. Poor Things would probably be second, but largely I think people consider the makeup in Poor Things Dafoe. He's the face of that film in terms of makeup. Same thing with Helen Mirren for Golda. It's basically a beautifully done job on one person. Society of the Snow's makeup is harrowing. And I'm very happy to see it here. It doesn't have a prayer, but I'm happy to see it here. Oppenheimer's is very subtle, and I'm not sure subtle ever really wins in this category. It's usually as monstery as possible, with no monster things here, except for maybe Defoe. I think that Kazuhiro is Oscar royalty, and we've been talking about the makeup for Maestro ever since we saw the first stills from it last summer. But it's not just Cooper, as remarkable as that is. I think the aging of Carey Mulligan in this is really something to see. And she goes through several stages in this, finally to Cancer Patient. That is, every single one is on the money. So I think just for the enormity of the makeup work here, that Kazuhiro will win for Maestro.
Okay, Charlie, what about you?
I was feeling pretty confident about Poor Thing, my choice for Poor Things, but now you guys got me rethinking that a little bit. I really feel like, because and maybe this is stupid of me to be thinking, but because of the way that Bradley Cooper's chances have evaporated in Best Actor, and we've seen a lot of times this especially for the transformational role, makeup is like a 1-2 punch. Meryl Streep, Jessica Chastain, Gary Oldman. I kind of feel like, because it's with Poor Things, I think it's also because maybe everybody doesn't have like prosthetics on them, but everybody's beautifully made up, have beautifully styled, and it's like every individual is just this personal like makeup and look to them that just makes them radiate on screen. I think that could prove that could prove well for them. I'm going to stick with Poor Things, but Christ.
Yeah.
While we're with Charlie, before we move on to the final question, Charlie, you wanted to have a brief discussion about the shorts, and I will allow it this once, just for you to tell us, seeing as you've seen them all and you're really into this, tell me, who should I have chosen in it? Because I'm not changing anything, but tell me.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think I'm pretty confident with animated short that War is Over is going to be the winner there. It makes me feel sympathy for a pigeon, which is an achievement on its own. Live action and documentary, I'm a bit more conflicted by. Live action, I've had Red, White, and Blue for the longest time, but damn it, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar has a lot of things that I feel would win this category. It's on Netflix. It's Wes Anderson, has a lot of big stars in it. But it's also, we've seen that Wes Anderson films win Oscars when they're more universally accessible. All four shorts that Wes Anderson did with Netflix are very Wes Anderson. in a way that for some, including myself, I found extremely annoying.
Yeah.
So I'm very conflicted on that one. And for documentary, I have no idea what to do with that one. I'm just have Last Repair Shop as kind of like a somewhat default, but I think Nai Nai and WIPO is a very is a very possible one. I think the ABCs of book banning is one that sounds interesting, but I don't think it's going to prove to be very impactful. Even though this is Sheila Nevin's first film, who she was the longtime head of the documentary department at HBO, and also has the most individual Emmy wins of any person. She has 31 Emmys. I think The Barber of Little Rock could surprise if we see something very. I think that was, for me, that was the most captivating one. I was just glad that that none of them were immensely depressing this year, because this category is usually the toughest one to get through.
Well, the Henry Sugar thing, real quick, the Henry Sugar thing is interesting, because there are parts of the Academy voters who are turned off by a Wes Anderson in this category. They see it as a place to award an emerging filmmaker, and they don't necessarily want to give Wes Anderson an Oscar this way. So I don't know how much it helps, and we may be overthinking it, but it's been very interesting to me, because I had Red, White, and Blue early on as well. But it's been interesting to me. The majority of editors now are predicting Red, White, and Blue.
Yeah, I was very surprised when I saw that a couple days ago.
Henry Sugar is still winning our overall odds, but I'm very surprised to see how many people have switched to Red, White, and Blue.
Yeah.
Well, it's not easy to find Red, White, and Blue. I mean, as easy as it is to see Henry Sugar. I was just the opposite of you, Charlie, because I had Henry Sugar all the way through, and then I finally saw Red, White, and Blue, and damn, that twist got me.
Yeah, it
was like, whoa, this is a whole different.
Yeah, I talked to her about that, and I was like, I had to tell her, I was like, I didn't understand it at first. I thought it was something else. But
yeah, it was a mistake.
The political climate we're in. I mean, we're going to see how political the Academy is. If they go for ABCs of book banning and Red, White, and Blue, and I've been rooting for Red, White, and Blue. Before I had this career shift and started working with all these great people, I worked at Planned Parenthood for about 4 years, and I've seen these personal stories. So this movie was very personal for me, and I would love to see it win. I think it was a great short.
It would be a great win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, documentary short. I really just have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna keep Last Repair Shop. Although the last time I predicted Ben Proudfoot and Chris Bowers, I got burned really badly on that one.
We do need to move on. We only have 2 minutes to talk about what I want to hear mostly about, and that is what you're most excited about, nervous about, looking forward to, what's keeping you up at night, blah, blah, blah. We're going to you first. Tom.
Well, Rob, what I'm really hoping for tonight is that there's no repeat of putting down the movies that are nominated. You know, there have been years where they're saying, oh, nobody saw them, they're too long, they're too arty, they're too this, too that. I would really hope tonight's a celebration, not only of these 10 films, which I think is the most remarkable Best Picture lineup in my recent memory, maybe even for decades, I guess. But the industry in general. I mean, people went to the movies this year. I mean, it was Barbenheimer just sort of kicked off a big thing, but people know these films, and these films are so different, so diverse, and so expertly done that I just hope tonight that we can take a moment or two to celebrate just how great a year it was at the movies. Okay, I like that. What about you, Charlie?
Let me see here. I'm looking forward to just some fun moments. I really hope that we get like people like Downey Jr. and Devon Joy Randolph are just themselves on stage, because I think they're just they're people that are so much fun to watch, especially when they're just in their natural element. I'm looking forward to all the performances, and especially like the crowd before the group before me, the I'm Just Ken performance. ever since I saw that in the theaters, I was like, I want to see this at the Oscars, and I want to see an army of Kens doing choreography behind Ryan Gosling.
Of course you do.
Because I've dreamt that several times. That would be weird, wouldn't it?
Of course.
And we're just, I want good speeches. I have a bet with several people about whether the term Zionist hoodlums will be uttered during the telecast. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that one.
Wow. Final word to you, Denton.
I'm just excited for Jimmy Kimmel. I think he's a killer host. I'm excited to see the performances, like Charlie said. And I'm finally just ready for this Best Actress race to be over. I just want to know who won. I just want it to be done because I've thought about it way more than I ever should have. And finally, I just said, okay, this is my final pick, and here we go. So I just want my score, win or lose.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to bring in some new blood. That was a great conversation, guys. Thank you. And I really hope you have the best Oscars night. Enjoy it. We worked so hard for months and months and months. We're finally here. So if Keith, you could bring in our new panelists, and we will say goodbye to Charlie, Tom, and Denton. Thanks again, guys. See you later.
Cheers, Rob.
Cheers. All right.
Hi, Rob.
Marcus. That's cool. Hey.
What time is it in Australia? I'm curious.
It's 9 a.m. So I just had my coffee.
Early for this.
I got up early just for this. That's how I roll. All right. I'm excited. This is going to be fun, guys. We've got Marcus James Dixon, who is legally married to Mrs. Featherbottom, I think, in 48 states. We've got Susan Pennington, who is really flying the flag for half the world's population today in our chat room. Thank you, Susan, for joining us. And of course, we have my compatriot and brother at arms, Matt Noble, who is taking a break from his busy schedule to join us and provide us with his expertise. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
We have some categories to run through because we all have a little order that we're doing. And we're going to start with Best Supporting Actress, which is probably the least, I guess, interesting or nerve-wracking category of the night, because Da'Vine Joy Randolph has won everything. She's even won the Southwest Delaware Critics Association Awards. She has won it all, and she has so many notes of paper that she has brought up on stage just to piss off Chris Beecham that I feel like we're ready for that final piece of paper, and I want to see her holding it, shaking it, rattling off some names, and then giving us something meaty and delicious to chew on in her acceptance speech. Does anybody here have anything further to add to the Da'Vine Joy Randolph journey that we're about to see conclude tonight?
I do have an interesting statistic about her. This was sent by her publicity team. If she wins, which she's winning tonight, she will have the most awards in this category going back, to all the Critics Awards, including Southwest Delaware. 60. This will be our 60th award. The
60?
The previous record was Monique for Precious. She won 55. So, I mean, that's exciting. We're going to see history made tonight.
Jeez, that's a lot. Where's she going to put them all?
She needs a whole new house.
A house, just for, like, as I said, if you can win the East Delaware Critics Association, you are onto something. So, and look, if it wasn't for Da'Vine Joy Randolph, Susan, who do you think would be out in front here? Who would take it out?
Emily Blunt would be she's my second choice. I liked Maestro. I think any other year if it had been come out in any other year, we would see more wins for Maestro, and Emily's been around for a while, and I could see her taking it, and she did great in that movie. So she's my second choice, but I don't see it happening.
No.
But she's my second choice.
No. I'm glad that she's nominated finally, actually, Emily Blunt.
Mhm.
You know, she's done some really impressive performances, and she's finally nominated for her first Oscar. I would love to see her
She was
win. That ain't
great
happening.
in this movie. She was really
I
great in
thought
this
so.
movie.
Matt, do you feel that there's any heat at all for someone like maybe America Ferrera, or is this just let's move on? What do you think?
Look, I think America Ferrera had the scene, like one of the most talked about, celebrated scenes in cinema from the past year. Emily Blunt is sort of like in the Best Picture nominee and in the Best Picture front runner, and has a great chance of like being overdue and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's Davine has this. I'm pretty confident in it. And as someone who, like, The Holdovers is my favorite film of the year, I'm really happy going into Oscar night that it's not like that. It's at least got one in the bank.
Can we do a what if? Can we do a what if scenario? What if Lily Gladstone had competed in supporting? Do you think this whole season would have been different? Lily probably would have won some awards, maybe not as, maybe not 60, but I think she would have won some things along the way, possibly the Oscar tonight, but who knows?
I agree. That's a good point. And also, I mean, the justification that her and her campaign had to move her into lead, I guess, was twofold. It was, one, we believe her performance is so integral to the film, and she does such an amazing job that she should be a lead. But secondly, were they trying to avoid a Davine Joy Randolph? And at the time, remember, Danielle Brooks was absolutely a presumed frontrunner to keep her out of that very difficult race and put her in Best Actress, which is also extremely competitive. What was going on there, Marcus? Do you have much intel on that whole thinking?
No, I don't know. I can only assume that Lily wanted to go lead. She thought she was a lead, and she definitely is the lead actress of that movie. There's no one bigger than her on the female side. I think she also wants the headlines of the first Native American actress winning Best Actress, and it's going to be an iconic moment if it happens. I am predicting that to happen. That's another slugfest for a different group of people, though.
I think Gladstone could have won supporting actress, but I think she's got a better chance in actress, actually, looking at the race now, like, and how it's panned out. The fact that her biggest rival in the Best Actress category has won recently, like, also, could factor in as well. So I think it's sort of, she made the right choice, but she also could have won supporting. I just think it may have been a tighter race with Davine.
Let's move on to animated feature. This is a category where it is absolutely not locked in, and it's gone back and forth. Earlier in the season, most pundits thought Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was an absolute shoo-in. It could have even been nominated in Best Picture. That seemed to have petered off a little because The Boy and the Heron started to really start making some waves, and it even won at the BAFTAs, which is interesting. However, we've all been going back and forth. Spider-Man won at the PGA. That is a very big factor that we cannot ignore. And on that basis, at the last second, I decided to put Spider-Man in first, and I've had Boy and the Heron in there for some time, and I don't feel at all confident about that. Matt, where are you at on animated feature? Can you give me some idea as to what the hell to do?
Well, like, I've been sort of going with Boy and the Heron most of the season, partly because I think that, like, it's sort of, to some degree, a standalone story and film. It's not part of, like, it doesn't have a cliffhanger that it ends on or anything like that. I think it's a nice throwback for when Spirited Away was able to win this category so many years ago as well. And we've got with sequels in this category do not do well unless you're Toy Story. I don't think any sequel outside of Toy Story's ever won in this category before. Now, that being said, the original film here did win the category. So I don't, like, part of me is thinking of flipping back to Spider-Man just because it does seem like there is some momentum for it and it is the one most people are picking. But yeah, this is one of the categories I'm really in two minds about.
Yeah, it's a tough one. What about you, Marcus?
By the way, I think it's too late to change. I believe our predictions.
No.
You might want to double check. I
Let me
think
check.
it posed at 3. But this category has been causing me a lot of anxiety because I thought Spider-Man was it. I'm talking about earlier, like months ago. I thought it was going to win in a landslide, and then The Boy and the Heron won the Golden Globe, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm wrong. And then, like you just mentioned, Spider-Man won at PGA, but then Boy and the Heron won at BAFTA. Like, it's one of those two. I've narrowed it down. It's one of those two. But I ultimately went with The Boy and the Heron. As I said in another slugfest, it's the more snobby of the movies. Yeah. Spider-Man's much more of a blockbuster crowd-pleasing movie, and so there's also not an ending of Spider-Man. Like, it ends with to be continued, so it kind of leaves you a little unfulfilled. Saying that Spider-Man was in my top 3, I absolutely loved it, but I'm not an Oscar voter. Like, usually what I like, the voters don't like, so that's another reason I'm not picking Spider-Man here. I think you're muted.
You're muted, Rob.
Yeah.
Apologies. Your word, Susan, on the animated feature category. Whatever you say is what's going to happen. Go.
The Boy and the Heron. I was too reminded of Spirited Away when you said. I've thought of that too, and I just think it's a beautiful film, and it's hand drawn and kind of a throwback to animation of days gone by, and I have an appreciation for that, and I think hopefully the Oscar voters do too. And I just think I just love a beautiful film, and I just think it's beautiful, and that's why I picked it. And y'all are right, it's being split between the two films of each have won a lot of things, so it's hard to predict. But that's why I went with that one, just for the look and the beauty, and I guess like the snob factor, like you said, it's the more artistic of the two.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it true that a lot of people in the Academy will appreciate the artistry, the hand-drawn nature of Boy and the Heron, and maybe that Spider-Man seems like half a film? One of our commenters, Miguel Marrero, has mentioned that. I totally agree. Even though Spider-Man is such a beautiful film to immerse yourself in, it's so artistic, but its previous film, its precursor won. Do we need to award it again? That's where these are the arguments that have been floating around my tiny brain. So we'll see. Let's move on.
Your brain is big. Your brain is not tiny, Rob.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Always so kind to me. Let's move on to, let me see, a song. So I got a text earlier today from my daughter, who's 15, and I'm just giving her a shout out. And she said if Billie Eilish doesn't win today, I may jump off a balcony. And I said, please don't do that. That is not a nice thing to say. But she was, of course, joking. But I agree. I really think the Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell song, What Was I Made For, is one of the best songs written for a film ever. And I mean that. It's beautiful. And I want it to win so badly. I am not an I'm Just Ken person. I don't love that song. I would have preferred the Dua Lipa song instead. That's just me. We all have our own subjective likes and dislikes. I don't hate the song, so don't get me wrong. So look, I feel like that's a Billie Eilish. She's going to win her second Oscar alongside her brother. And the other 3 are congratulations for being there, particularly Diane Warren. You're an absolute freaking legend. I love you. You're not going to win again. You will win soon. Don't you worry, pretty little face. So, Susan, what do you think about best song?
I'm going with What Was I Made For, although I'm the opposite of you, and I would actually like to see Ken win. I loved it. I think, and I cannot wait to see Ryan Gosling perform it. And I think that's part of why I like it so much, is I loved his performance of it in the movie, and he sold it for me. But I do agree with your points about What Was I Made For is just, it's a timely song. It's I guess maybe an important song, but I'm Just Ken won the Critics' Choice, which kind of surprised me because I really expected the other to win. So there's that. But What Was I Made For is my pick, is what I think is going to win.
Marcus?
Yeah, I agree. And What Was I Made For? It was everywhere this year. It was at the Grammys. It was at Saturday Night Live. It's on commercials. And you don't really hear I'm Just Ken a lot unless you actually, search for it on YouTube or something. But I wish we could go back in time 2 years and make Lin-Manuel Miranda the winner of Best Song for Encanto, because now Billie Eilish and Phineas are going to have 2 Oscars within 3 years, and they're going to be the youngest double winners of all time. And I don't know if I like that. Don't tell your daughter I said that.
I won't. I agree with you, man. Like, I just feel like I love Billie Eilish. I think she's an amazing performer and writer and whatever. But to have 2 Oscars in such a short period of time when so many people don't have it is a little bit strange. Before I ask Matt for his final word on this, I don't know if Washaje, is that how you say it? A Song for My People is being performed. I should know this information, but it's just gone out of my brain. I'm really looking forward to seeing that staged if they're going to do it, because I don't even know what that's. I've never even heard the song. I mean, full disclosure, I haven't gone out of my way to listen to that song yet. Been a bit busy, so I'm curious to see how that all pans out. Matt, what do you think about this category?
Yeah, like I'm someone who, like, I probably, if I was voting, would vote for I'm Just Ken, because I've always enjoyed the comedy songs and just how a character belts it, and it sort of is such an integral part of the movie. That being said, What Was I Made For also comes at a very pivotal moment in the film. Really, so I like how both of those songs are used in the films to help tell the story of the films. Prefer that than your end credit songs. So I'll be happy with either winning, but I'd probably vote for I'm Just Ken. That sort of just hits my sort of song in movie sensibilities a little bit more. Yeah, and interesting. But I am pretty confident that Billie Eilish is going to win this. And I don't know if any of you guys know. When's the last time a Best Song winner at the Grammys was in this category?
That's a great point. I don't know, but isn't that interesting? Because it usually happens the year after, if at all.
Yeah, the Oscars here have the best song of the year according to the music industry in their race, a song that was made for a film. So I reckon that's something that's a bit of a feather in sort of the film industry's hat, and may even help it a bit more.
And Rob, according to my source, which is Chris Beecham on Slack, A Song for My People will be performed by Scott George and the Osage Tribal Singers. What Was I Made For is being performed by Billie Eilish and Phineas. It Never Went Away from American Symphony by John Batiste. I'm Just Ken, as you mentioned, Ryan Gosling and Mark Ronson. And The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot will be performed by Becky G.
It's going to be great. The performances are always ones that I look forward to. Yeah. Some people find that the most boring part. I don't. I think they're cool. And I think the one by the Osage Singers is going to be incredible to witness. I'm looking forward to it. Let's move on.
Is this going to be Barbie's only win?
Yeah, I think so. Well, we're going to.
That's what. Yeah. I know you're going through other categories, but
what do you think? What do you think?
I don't know. I want to predict it in production design, costume, and screenplay, but I don't know if it'll win any of those.
Do it.
I'm not gonna, but I can't go on all those limbs. That's too many. Barbie doesn't have that many limbs to go out on, so I don't know which ones to pick. But I think those 3 things were so iconic about the film, and it was just we going through our predictions, going, boy, as I was changing them last night, going, am I just gonna land on song for Barbie? Because it was such a big film for the year, and there was so much attention with Greta Gerwig missing out and Margot Robbie missing out. Post-nominations, it was one of the films that was most talked about. And to see that momentum swung against it in some of these categories like costume design and production design is wild to me.
It is wild. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. And it's a real shame. Whether you love or hate Barbie or just okay with it, I'm one of the people who are just, I like it. I'm okay with it. I didn't think it was the best film of the year. So what? I still am happy that it's here, and I was hoping Margot Robbie would get her flowers. But
never forget, Barbie won the Best Box Office Achievement Award at the Golden Globe. Don't take that away from it.
Don't take that away from it. And that's what it will carry with it for the rest of time. Thank you, Hollywood. Oh, no, they're not called the Hollywood Foreign Press. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about this category that's coming up now, visual effects, to me is so 50-50 in terms of, I think, who is the front runner, that we could even get a spoiler. Like, I really am so unsure, because The Creator, to me, is one of the best films of 2023. I adore that film, and I want to see it win here so badly. I was so happy it got nominated in sound. But then Godzilla Minus One is also in my like top 15 films of the year. I loved that as well. It's such a cool, like, Japanese. It's one of the Japanese Godzillas. It's not one of the Hollywood ones. And so it's another foreign film nominated across the board in other categories. That's exciting to me. And it has a lot of history. So I'm predicting Godzilla Minus One. I don't feel confident. And I'm going against my personal favorite, which is The Creator. What do you think, Marcus? Like, have you got any real insight here as to what's going to happen?
I have no insight. I think you said you were 50-50. I'm 25-25-25-25 on this one. I think I have Guardians in 5th place. Even that could win, but I think it's between the other 4. And for Godzilla, which is my prediction, some people are saying, this is the first nomination for Godzilla ever. So, that's a minus. I think that's a plus. Like, after 30 years, however many years, 50 years of Godzilla movies, we finally have a nomination. Finally, something that the Academy got behind and said, this is so good, we're going to nominate it. That to me is a positive that this is its first one ever. That's why I'm picking it. It's such a passion film. People absolutely love this movie, including Steven Spielberg. He wrote, there was some article where he said he'd gone to the movie 3 times, and he's trying to convince all of his Academy friends to vote for it. So, I mean, if Steven Spielberg likes it,
who are we to argue with the maestro himself? What about you, Susan?
Could be. I was just going to say, could be Godzilla plus one at the Oscars.
That's a good one.
I agree that it's split between the two. Yeah, I agree that it's split between the two. I'm going with The Creator only because it's got a second nomination in sound. And I just think that gives it a little extra push, but it could be either one.
What about you, Matt?
That's a great point. So, like, that's saying me, like, yeah. But that all being said, I'm going with Godzilla. Oh, that was great. Like, I just thought so good. And it is the film that maybe when you like read through the 5 sounds the most visual effectsy from the name, like Godzilla Minus One. The poster's got the big Godzilla on it. I feel like that maybe is the one. But like, yeah, Creator, it's got another nomination. So and probably some more famous actors attached to that film as well, which might help it out. So yeah, jump ball.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mission Impossible pulled this off. Tariq Khan at Gold Derby wrote an article saying, watch out for Mission Impossible. It's also in Best Sound, so it has 2 nominations. And it was just a really damn good movie. It was such, it's like a blockbuster action movie, but so what? It's really good. And sometimes it's the best movie in this category that wins. Forget the visual effects. They're picking which movie they like the most.
Well, yeah, Oppenheimer not getting nominated here really like opened up the field. Yeah. Like I think I would have easily picked Oppenheimer to win here, because for nominations is just the branch. For winners, it opens up to the whole Academy voting. I think the whole Academy was voting on visual effects. Oppenheimer would have won here easily. So we're gonna have a film that, like, by the benefit of the bad thing about Oppenheimer missing out is that it's harder to predict. The good thing about Oppenheimer missing out is you've got a film like The Creator or Godzilla or Mission Impossible that wouldn't have won an Oscar that's going to leave tonight an Oscar-winning film.
And Poor Things won this category at BAFTA, and Poor Things wasn't nominated either. So it's wild what happened here.
It's wild. I wish this would happen more often. This is what makes it exciting. Let's move on to Best Sound. Normally with Best Sound, I am never that excited about their sound because it's usually the loudest film or it's the Oscar, the Best Picture nominee. And here we have Oppenheimer out in front. It's so loud. Christopher Nolan films always do quite well in sound because it's just the way it works. Maestro, of course, is nominated. Beautiful sound work in that film. Whatever you think about the film itself, the sound work is impeccable. Mission Impossible gets a second nomination here as well. I'm so happy for the Mission Impossible franchise. Finally, he's been taken seriously by Oscar voters this year. The Creator, as I've already said, one of my favorite films. The sound in that film is wild. It's incredible. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But I left the other one to last, The Zone of Interest. I think The Zone of Interest could win this. I'm not predicting it. I have been for weeks. I took it out. I put in Oppenheimer because I just feel like I just want to be safe. But The Zone of Interest, it did win at BAFTA. The sound in that film is what it's all about. It's that sound in the background it's so eerie and it's so subtle. And they don't usually go for subtle, do they, Matt?
No. A good thing with The Zone of Interest is it opens on sound. Like the film begins and it is just the sound. So, but I'm going with Oppenheimer. It's the Best Picture frontrunner. It's got explosions. It's Christopher Nolan. I think that wins. But I do think Zone of Interest is an interesting one here because sound is really you open with thinking about the sound of the film as you're watching.
Yeah. What about you, Susan?
I am picking Oppenheimer like everybody else, but this is a category that sometimes people will give to a movie that they feel like maybe should get more things, but there's so many this year. There's so many good movies. So I do think I'm split on this one because I do think that one of the other movies could get it just because they want to award it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, Maestro, that was such an integral part of the movie. Zone of Interest, they were all such important parts of the movie. But again, this could be where they finally say we're going to give something to Mission Impossible. So I went with Oppenheimer just because it's Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And, but I really think it could go to any one of them.
Sometimes Marcus, do you think that sometimes it's worthwhile maybe not overthinking it, and that's why Oppenheimer just seems like the most rational?
Yeah, I think you just said, the person that's going to win our prediction contest at Gold Derby is the person who is going to go with the odds in every category except for one or two. So you have to figure out which one or two categories are our odds wrong about. I think we're right about this one. I think it's going to be Oppenheimer. Second place is Zone of Interest. I'm looking at the experts. We have 29 total experts. It's 22 Oppenheimer, 7 Zone of Interest. Don't count out Maestro, though. A lot of musical type movies have won sound categories in the past. Sound of Metal, Bohemian Rhapsody. Didn't Whiplash win this too? Yeah. So I think it's between those three. And I mean, a lot of people switched after BAFTA from Oppenheimer to the Zone of Interest, and I think it could happen, but I don't want to lose an easy category, so I'm putting that in quotes.
Yeah,
because
I think
seems easy.
I think you're right there, Marcus. It is about sort of which are the categories that are going to be the upsets and being smart in where to go there, which is why I think I'm still only going to predict Barbie in that song category. Because I don't know where other categories it's gonna pop in, and my prediction is I think Barbie will get 2 Oscars. I don't know where that second one's gonna come from. It'll be costume, screenplay, or production design, but I don't know which of those 3 to win. But I think it wins one of those 3.
I hope it's screenplay because then Greta Gerwig finally wins an Oscar. Cool. I can't wait. That would be one of the speeches of the night that would go viral.
I've been wanting to predict it all season for screenplay, but with American Fiction being the front runner, I think if Oppenheimer was the front runner in that race, I'd be picking Barbie over it. But American Fiction, I think, is such a screenplay-heavy film in and of itself. Sorry, Rob, for taking us in a different direction.
Yeah, we have.
I do need to head off now. So I'll just say
Okay.
goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll see you in the post show, Matt. And thank you for joining.
Yes, I look forward to seeing everyone in the post show. It's going to be so much fun.
All right, see you later. Susan, what are you most looking forward to tonight? Or what are you thinking about the most?
It's my favorite night of the year, so I look forward to all of it. But I'm with everybody else. The Best Actress race. I cannot wait to see who wins, and we've had some good. Robert Downey Jr. has given some good speeches, and I think we've had some good people winning that are giving good speeches, and so I'm hoping we have a night of entertaining speeches, acceptance speeches.
Yeah. And what about you, Marcus?
I'm really looking forward to seeing the past acting winners come out and kind of give tributes to the current acting nominees. They're doing that in all 4 acting categories, correct? And so I know some people don't like it. They think it takes time away from the clips or whatever, but go watch your clips on YouTube.
Screw the clips.
Give us this moment. I want to see some past winners, just talk endlessly about how great these current nominees are. It's so cheesy, but it's so brilliant.
I like it too.
Oh, I can't wait. All right. Thank you both so much for joining us. Keith, let's bring in Ray, Tony, and Christopher for our final slot before we move on.
Marcus and Susan, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Goodbye. Chris and Tony.
Hello. Goodbye.
And Rob, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, Ray. Let me introduce you all before we gab. We have Christopher Tsang, one of our amazing freelancers who's just knocking it out of the park every time he writes for us. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. And of course, he was one of my discoveries, and I'll always take that credit. We've got Tony Ruiz, who is basically like, a sister from another mister to me. And we have really entertainment journalism royalty. And I'm not just saying that. I worship the ground that Ray Richmond walks on, and he's with us today as well.
Oh, gosh. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Let's go straight into it. We don't have a lot of time because we have to end a couple minutes earlier. I want to talk about the category that everybody's so stressed about, and that is Best Actress. And I'm going straight to Tony, and he knows why. Go. Just start talking.
Oh, is it because I'm not predicting Lily Gladstone? So basically, here's my thought. I am fully prepared to be wrong about this, but I can't. The thing that stuck with me on this whole thing is the fact that Lily Gladstone wasn't even nominated at BAFTA. And the fact that she missed out there is, to me, a bigger tell than the fact that Lily won SAG. We have seen plenty of instances where the SAG winner does not go on to win the Oscar. We've seen fewer examples of a eventual Oscar winner not even getting in at BAFTA. And so in that kind of mindset, and I know that a lot of people talk about the narrative, and I think the narrative is important, but the narrative is not the be all end all. We saw that just a few years ago with Chadwick Boseman. Everybody was predicting Chadwick Boseman from Ma Rainey, and he had won pretty much everything with the exception of BAFTA, but then eventually Anthony Hopkins won, and we all know how they staged that at the ceremony, and we don't need to rehash it. So I don't know if I call this going out on a limb, or maybe it's just my Taurus stubborn streak. I'm going to stick with Emma Stone in the movie that I think Oscar voters respond to. I'm discounting the whole idea that she just won recently, because we've seen so many times that doesn't matter, particularly in Best Actress. So if we have a showy performance versus a not showy performance, Oscar voters tend to go with the showier performance. I am totally prepared to be wrong about this, and I will take my drubbings gladly, but I would rather be wrong. I would rather be wrong than switch and end up being, I'd rather be wrong than switch and be wrong. So
Okay,
that's where I am right now.
there will be drubbings. Let me guarantee you that. Now,
Oh, I assume so.
Chris, I want to go to you before we hear from Ray. Where are you at on actress? Because I wasn't actually 100% sure yet.
It is funny how there seems to be a consensus pick around Gladstone. Not a lot of people I know are picking Stone, and what everyone says is such a close race. It's so weird because Gladstone and Stone, I think, have the same amount of things going for them and against them. You know, Emma lost SAG, but Lily wasn't nominated at the BAFTA. She's the only Oscar nominee in this category without a BAFTA nom, except Annette Bening. Poor Things has more support, has more chance to win text, but Stone already has an Oscar, and I don't know if people want to give her a second one at her young age. I think that plays a factor with voters. Neither of them are in the Best Picture frontrunner. That doesn't help us. Killers of the Flower Moon won't win anything else, so it really rests on Lily Gladstone's shoulders. But she does have the narrative. She has the potential to make history. But I'm going with Lily Gladstone only because the one thing she has that Emma Stone doesn't right now is momentum. But it is interesting, and sometimes that's all you need, but it is interesting that, like, compared to last year, Oscar voting happened the Thursday after SAG, so people had more time to process Michelle Yeoh and Everything Everywhere all at once. This year it was the Thursday after BAFTA, and voting was smack dab in the middle of SAG. So who knows if there was enough time for that, but yeah, I'm sticking with Gladstone. Makeup, I agree. Makeup could, if Poor Things wins makeup, then it could easily sway the tide, especially given that category history. It's not the type they would go for with always a transformative central lead character. So if Poor Things wins makeup, that could be a sign for the night.
Okay, now, Ray, tell us what to do.
Well, Rob, I'm a total fair weather predictor. I was going Stone all the way through until SAG, when Gladstone won, and I just thought, well, of course, because everybody had been picking Gladstone, until award season really kicked in earnest because of the opportunity to honor an Indigenous Native American actress for the first time, and I feel like that's going to predominate now. Now that we had Michelle Yeoh being the first Asian to win last year, and I don't think voters are going to pass up an opportunity to have a second first in as many years. And just absolutely, Emma Stone has by far the showier performance. A lot of Lily Gladstone's performance is acting with her eyes and her expression and looking haunted and tortured. But I feel like that's not going to matter. Who has the showier performance is going to be irrelevant this time. Now watch Sandra Hüller slip in and beat them both after they both split it. I think that's still a possibility that Sandra Hüller could. If there's a great upset long shot pick from left field, I think this is the category where it could happen, where you could have somebody that's not named Stone or Gladstone win. But all things being equal, I think it's Lily Gladstone's night, and she deserves it.
You know what? If Sandra Hüller wins, I will probably need to be sent to the hospital.
Me too.
I will have some kind of cardiac episode because I really, really think 2023 is the year of Sandra Hüller. Two great movies. She was in Tony Erdmann a few years ago. She's just a legend. She's just going to go so far in her career now. This is it. Okay, but we do have to move on, unfortunately. So, production design is to me, all five of these films could win, and maybe Napoleon is not necessarily because it's not a Best Picture nominee. Killers, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Barbie. I'm going with Poor Things. That really blew my mind. The production design in that film. I feel like we could probably say the same thing about costume design. In fact, let's talk about both of them together because in costume design, you've got a lot of similar films. In fact, they're all the same. I just noticed that. So what's going to happen there is I feel that Barbie will win costume design and Poor Things will win production design, but it could be the other way around, or it could be one or both. What do you think, Ray?
I think Poor Things is winning them both. I do think that they really, really want to honor Barbie because of the perception that Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie got screwed out of nominations. Greta Gerwig got the nomination for screenplay, but not for directing. I feel like Poor Things, as divisive a film as it is, and there are a lot of people that really hate it, including both of the anonymous Oscar ballot people that I spoke to, just could not have hated Poor Things more. Thought it was sexist, and I actually think it was the opposite of sexist and misogynistic myself. That she ends up, that Bella ends up winning and beating the men in the end. But I think just in terms of the look, it's just, I've seen Poor Things 3 times now, and it just gets more gorgeous to look at each time. And I feel like the costumes. You see, I thought Barbie would have been a sure thing for hair and makeup, and it's bizarre to me that it didn't even qualify on the short list for hair and makeup. But in terms of costumes, I mean, she's still a doll. Come on, it's still a doll, and you're still talking about costumes for a doll come to life, and the accessorized others that surround her. So I feel like I think Poor Things is getting both of these. I thought hair and makeup was going to go to Poor Things, but even though we're not talking about that, I think Maestro is going to get that one.
Okay, let's move on. Chris, what do you think?
I'm with Ray. I think Poor Things takes both. This kind of reminds me of when the sound categories used to split between mixing and editing, and they would mostly go to the same film because no one knew what the difference was between each. So it was less about the merit and more about which film had the most support. And I think that's Poor Things. I just think Barbie has dwindled down very drastically since nominations, and then backlash to the nominations, and then backlash to that backlash, and all that stuff. So I think these are the 2 categories that Poor Things could win. Each of them won both at the Critics' Choice and BAFTAs. We both went with one film. Poor Things won the Guild, and I think Barbie and Poor Things both split at the Costume Designers Guild. But specifically with production design, like we saw last year with Babylon, sometimes you just go their own way, regardless of if a film has swept all the guilds. So it could go to Oppenheimer if there is a split. I think that's one of those what if categories along with adapted screenplay. So it's close, but I think Poor Things is going to win both.
Okay. Wow. I'm still confused. So Tony, just can you set us straight, please?
I'm actually with them. I have Poor Things winning both. I think the thing that Poor Things has in its back pocket is the fact that it is so original, that it looks like nothing else, that it's these worlds, these environments that are created both through the costumes and through the sets are basically invented from scratch, from the ground up. With Barbie, you at least have a template of, we know what the Barbie dream house looks like. We know what a Barbie outfit looks like, but these are so original and so beautifully created, and they are so integral to the story itself. They are a part of the storytelling that I actually feel really comfortable predicting both of them.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. I think this is where a lot of people are going to really succeed or fail in their predictions overall, is in these 2 categories. And of course, the categories we're about to talk about. But before we do, I just think let's just quickly get director underway. Christopher Nolan, whatever you may think of him subjectively, I honestly believe that he is one of the greats of cinema at the moment, and will be for many decades to come in terms of how people look at and think about his films. His films mean a hell of a lot to me, and it's about damn time, quoting the great Lizzo, that he wins an Oscar, and I'm very excited about that happening. If anyone could possibly take it away from him, it could be any of these four: Yorgos Lanthimos, Jonathan Glazer, Justine Triet, and Martin Scorsese. Does anyone have any particular interesting comments to make about director before we move on to the shorts?
It just seems like pretty much the most slam dunk sure thing of the night. It's inconceivable that I feel like Christopher Nolan had this one before the movie was even made. No matter what came out of that onto that screen, he was going to be the favorite for the Oscar because of the absolute perception that he's been passed over too often in the past. You could make the same case with Bradley Cooper, but not for directing. For directing, it's almost, if he loses this, it's almost an embarrassment for the Academy that they haven't given him anything yet.
Yeah. Okay, we've got to talk about the shorts because these are the ones that this is where you can win or lose. And we've already heard from Denton and Charlie particularly about what they feel about the shorts. My only thing to add is completely selfish and self-serving, and that is that Sarah McFarlane is nominated for Red, White and Blue. She's an Aussie. And we also have in the same category for The After, Mickey Bentham, another Aussie. It's a very low year for Aussies this year, so I just want either of those films to win. I have nothing else to add of any value. So let's go to Ray first. What are you picking and why in this short period of time?
Let me start. Do we want to go in any particular order? I was going to go with animated short first. For animated short, I'm going with The War Is Over, the John and Yoko one, even though I didn't see it because I would have had to go to the theater to see it. I don't think did you guys, were you able to find it I don't think it's streaming yet.
No.
So I couldn't see it. But, and the other one that I watched that I thought was that blew me away was Letter to a Pig, which I just thought was phenomenally good, but I think they're going to give it to the John and Yoko thing just because it's John and Yoko for the War Is Over. I think The Last Repair Shop was the best documentary short, but I think they're going to give it to book banning is just a much more trendy topic at the moment, especially in an election year here in the States. So I feel like the ABCs are, and I also love the Nene and WIPO, but I feel like ABC's of book banning is going to get it. And live action short, that's a phenomenal category. All 5 of these films I thought were terrific. Red, White, and Blue, the one that by an Aussie, Rob, I just thought was, boy, what a great twist halfway through. I did not see that coming. And it was superbly done. I also like The After is incredibly powerful. But I think they're going to give it to, the Wes Anderson one, which is, of course, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. It's so charming. It's so Wes Anderson. And it's got just a lyrical, beautiful, wonderful, bouncy quality to it. This is so apples and oranges, this category, though. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, my God, how do you judge this versus The After versus Red, White, Blue? I mean, it's so heavy duty versus light and frothy. But I think light and frothy is getting that category this time.
Yeah. Okay. So, Chris, have you already talked about this to shorts? No, sorry, I'm just losing my mind. Go for it.
I played it safe. I think voters are going to be very lazy with these 3, especially last year's with Boy, Mole, whatever that movie is, that one animated short. I think it's about the same length as Wes Anderson's movie. I just think, John and Yoko's in the title of that animated short. I think that's going to win. Wes Anderson, this is, people want to see him on stage. It's on Netflix. It has more accessibility than Red, White, and Blue. So I think the ones who have passion for that will go for it. And I didn't like ABCs of book banning, but I think that's going to win just because of its topic, because of the serious topic matter. But I do agree that Last Repair Shop and Barber of Little Rock and Nine and WIPO they can all easily take it, but I just feel like a lack of a second alternative will just default to the ABCs of book banning.
Okay, Tony, you get the final word on the shorts.
I think the John and Yoko one, just titles matter. I think I remember there was one year where I think the winner was, Heaven is a Traffic Jam on the 405 or something like that.
Yeah.
So titles matter. I think the John and Yoko one will win. I interviewed many of the directors of both the live action and the doc shorts. I think they're both just outstanding categories. I'm going with the ABCs of book banning. I love that film. Also, as an English teacher, I think that this topic of banning books for kids is just such an important topic. The fact that it has Sheila Nevins attached to it, I think, will be a big help to that. I have Red, White, and Blue. I think that's a phenomenal film. I was annoyed by the Henry Sugar one, and I agree with what Denton said earlier. Voters don't always like to just go with the name check on this one. My favorite of the category in live action short was Invincible. I just thought that was such a powerful and such a perfectly compact story. I think any of the five could win, but I'm going with Red, White, and Blue because of I think the politics involved is going to carry it ahead.
Yeah. Apropos of what you guys were saying, particularly about the ABCs of book burning, that's one of the ones that I actually saw because I'm interested in the topic. And it's just bizarre that we're in 2024 and that is actually a thing. I think it's be good for the Academy to shine some light on that.
Be happy that you're in Australia and not here.
It just doesn't make any sense, particularly because there's one side of the culture wars that keeps saying the other side are cancelling them, but it's really happening everywhere and it needs to stop. Let's move on. We have 4 minutes to talk about your number one thing. What are you most hoping for? What do you want? What are you sleep over? What are you worried about? Whatever it might be. Chris, you're going first.
Just for this to be over. I will say I am looking forward to the Wajaji, A Song for My People performance at the Oscars. When you listen to that, it's like a 6-minute song. When you listen to that just on audio, it's not as impactful. But when you combine that with I'm sure performances and I'm sure the costumes of just the celebration of the Osage people singing this song, I think it's gonna really play well in the room. So I'm looking forward to that performance. I'm sure Jimmy Kimmel's gonna make a lot of Barbie jokes. So we'll see how they fly. But I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested to see what edgy things he may come up with.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Ray?
I'm hoping for a few upsets. This seems like on paper, like it's going to be a little bit on the dull side because it's just going to be such a giant Oppenheimer coronation. So I'm hoping for a few upsets. God, I'm with you, Rob. I would love to see Sandra Hüller win, or Annette Bening, or anything that will shake up what we have come. Even though it will, screw up my predictions, I want to see some upsets and something that will make for some excitement. I'm also oddly really looking forward to Ryan Gosling singing "I'm Just Ken." I'm a little shocked that a star of his stature is putting himself on the line to, test his voice before an Oscar audience, and I can't wait to see it. So I'm really I'm excited about that.
Same. All right, Tony, what about you?
I'm really pulling for Godzilla -1 in visual effects. I'm really looking forward to seeing if any of the limbs that I'm going out on are going to pay off. I'm predicting Oppenheimer in screenplay. So we'll see. So I could either do really well or really badly. We'll find out. I'm so looking forward to Jimmy Kimmel. I think that he has been consistently just amazing as an Oscar host. I think it's his show now, frankly. And I think he just brings such a great energy. He plays it so perfectly. He's just acerbic enough to be kind of edgy, but he's also respectful enough to honor the tradition of the Oscars. So I'm really looking forward to see what he does, because I just think he's spectacular. Anytime he is hosting an award show, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really looking forward to Kimmel. Please don't feed the audience or do vox pops outside with people that never watched the movies. Show us some great montages. I'm looking forward to the actors paying tribute to their fellow actors, although it is cringy and a little bit like over the top.
So
Who cares?
cringy.
It's the Oscars. It's the Oscars. Who gives a shit? We're going to enjoy it. We're going to have fun. I want it to be a good, tight show with not a lot of crap. Don't play the winners off. Let them talk. Let them cry. Let them.
I agree. It's always the case, where people always complain, oh, the acceptance speeches went on too long. And it's sort of like, what the hell are we talking about here? It's an award show. It's supposed to all be about the acceptance speeches.
Right. I don't want to see an interpretive dance about all the dogs of the 2023 Oscar race.
Oh, come on.
So,
we
Messi.
want except Messi. We need a Messi interpretive dance.
I feel like A24 dropped the ball because the dog from the zone of interest gets nothing. I'm feeling like it's so rude. What about that dog? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, that's
I'm also with Christopher, where I'm like, oh, I just want it to be over.
I'm looking forward to that.
I actually want to change that. I hope David Hemmingson wins for the holdovers.
Just to completely screw everything.
If he does, he should bring up his lawyers with him and to be very careful what he says. Now, thank you everybody for joining us. You know that Gold Derby is where it's at. This is it. Nothing else matters. Make sure you're back after the Oscars. Matt Noble is hosting a fantastic post show. Everybody enjoy your Oscars day, night, wherever you may be on the planet, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks,
again.
Rob. This was fun. Thanks, guys.